Love, a precious gift, but also a challenging journey. Have you ever felt lost in your relationships? Or wondered how to build a lasting and happy love? Have you ever noticed that your partner, despite still loving you, suddenly starts pulling away? You can feel the emotional distance growing, yet everything seems fine on the surface. It's a confusing and often painful experience. But what if this distance isn't about falling out of love? What if there are deeper reasons at play, emotional struggles, personal fears, or even changing relationship dynamics? Understanding why men sometimes withdraw, even when they care deeply, is crucial in navigating the ups and downs of love. In this article, we'll explore the hidden reasons behind this behavior and how to approach it with compassion and clarity. Welcome to the channel, Sophia's Knowledge, and my name is Sophia. This is where we share lessons about love, practical experiences, and secrets to building strong relationships. In today's video, Sophia will reveal to you 8 reasons men suddenly become distant even though they still love you. If you are looking for a deeper understanding of love and how to develop relationships, don't miss this video. Before watching the video, find a quiet space and put on your headphones so you can feel every word I share. Relax and enjoy this journey with me. Are you ready to embark on this journey? Let's go. Reason number 1. The hidden weight of work and life pressure. Why men suddenly become distant. Sometimes love isn't enough to keep someone present in the moment. You may feel the connection, the care, the lingering affection, but suddenly, he pulls away. It's not that he stopped loving you. He's just distant. Quiet. Somewhere else, even when he's sitting right next to you. One of the most common, yet overlooked reasons for this sudden emotional gap is pressure, specifically, pressure from work or life. The male response to stress, a silent retreat. While stress affects everyone, men often process it differently than women. Instead of expressing their worries or venting about their problems, many men internalize their stress. They retreat inward. They try to handle it alone. It's a deeply ingrained response shaped by culture, upbringing, and in many cases, a fear of appearing weak. When a man feels overwhelmed by his job, financial responsibilities, or life's unpredictable challenges, he may not have the tools, or the space, to process those emotions outwardly. So what does he do instead? He shuts down. He pulls back. He might go quiet, seem distracted, or avoid deep conversations. To the person he loves, it can feel like rejection. But to him, it's self-preservation. It's not about you, but it feels like it is. This is where it gets confusing. When your partner suddenly changes his behavior, you naturally start to wonder what went wrong. Did you say something? Did he lose interest? Is he falling out of love? And while those are valid fears, the truth might be something much simpler. He's exhausted. Mentally, emotionally, physically drained by the weight he's carrying. Imagine trying to juggle deadlines, bills, family expectations, a demanding boss, and personal goals, all while trying to be the strong one in a relationship. For many men, love can sometimes feel like another responsibility they need to do right, even if it's meant to be a source of comfort. So when everything starts piling up, they pull away, not because they don't care, but because they're trying to protect the relationship from their own inner chaos. The unseen burden of expectation. There's also an invisible pressure many men carry, the expectation to always have it together. To be the provider. The rock. The one who never crumbles. This societal pressure can make it extremely difficult for men to admit they're struggling. In fact, vulnerability can feel like a threat to their identity. So when life becomes overwhelming, distancing becomes a coping mechanism. They don't want to bring their stress into the relationship. They don't want to burden you with their fears. Ironically, in trying to shield you, they create distance. And you're left in the dark, wondering what you did wrong. How to respond with understanding, not assumption. The key in moments like these is not to assume the worst. If your partner starts to act distant, consider the possibility that something outside the relationship is affecting him. Gently ask how he's doing, not just "Are you okay?" but "Is there anything weighing on you right now?" Let him know you're there, without pressuring him to open up immediately. And most importantly, don't take the silence personally. His stress is not a reflection of your worth or the state of your relationship. Sometimes, love looks like patience. Sometimes, it's simply being a steady presence when the other person feels like they're barely holding it together. In the end, it's about compassion. Men aren't robots. They feel deeply, even when they don't always show it. When life hits hard, their instinct may be to armor up and isolate themselves. But that doesn't mean they don't want connection. They just may not know how to ask for it while under pressure. So if the man you love seems distant, try to see beyond the silence. It could be that life is shouting at him so loudly, he can't hear anything else right now. What he needs most might not be questions or solutions, but quiet understanding, and a reminder that he doesn't have to carry it all alone. What do you think about this? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. I look forward to hearing from you and discussing further. Don't forget to like if you find this content useful and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future posts. Thank you very much. Let's continue together. Reason number 2. The fear of losing personal freedom. Why men suddenly pull away. You feel like things are going well. The conversations are deep, the chemistry is strong, and everything seems to be moving forward, until suddenly, it isn't. He becomes distant. The connection that once felt so natural now feels awkward, strained, and uncertain. And one reason that's often hidden beneath the surface? His fear of losing personal freedom. Commitment doesn't scare him, losing himself does. Many people assume that when a man pulls away, it's because he's afraid of commitment. But often, the truth is more nuanced. It's not the relationship itself that frightens him, it's what he believes he might lose in the process. His independence. His space. His time. His ability to make decisions without constantly factoring someone else in. For many men, personal freedom is closely tied to identity. It represents autonomy, choice, and control over their own lives. When they fall in love, especially deeply and suddenly, they start to realize just how much that freedom could be reshaped, or even surrendered, by a serious relationship. And that thought can trigger a quiet, internal panic. The shift from me to we. Love requires a shift. As a relationship deepens, the focus naturally moves from me to we. Weekend plans are made together. Decisions are shared. Time is spent as a couple instead of individually. While these changes are part of any healthy partnership, they can feel overwhelming to someone who isn't emotionally prepared to make that transition. A man who's enjoyed years of doing what he wants, when he wants, without having to check in or compromise, might feel his independence slipping away even if his partner isn't demanding anything from him. The mere idea of needing to explain himself or negotiate daily routines can trigger fear that he's slowly losing control over his own life. Internal conflicts and mixed signals. This fear doesn't mean he doesn't care about you. In fact, it can be strongest because he does. He wants to love without losing himself. He wants to move forward without feeling trapped. So, instead of talking it through, he starts to distance himself, physically, emotionally, or both. You might notice him canceling plans more often, avoiding future talk, or becoming non-committal about even simple things. It feels like rejection, but what's really happening is a tug-of-war between his desire for closeness and his need for autonomy. He may not even fully understand this internal conflict himself, he just knows something feels too intense, too fast, or too restricting. Society's role in the fear of being tied down. From a young age, many men are conditioned to view freedom as something they must protect. Society praises the image of the self-made man, the lone wolf, the adventurer who answers to no one. As a result, relationships are sometimes subconsciously framed as a kind of trap or end of the road. This mindset creates a fear that love will lead to a loss of personal dreams, career goals, or friendships. He may worry that he won't be able to pursue his passions or spend time the way he used to. In his mind, falling in love may mean becoming someone else, someone less free. What you can do when he pulls away. It's hard not to take distance personally, especially when things were going so well. But if fear of losing freedom is behind his retreat, there are ways to approach the situation with understanding instead of fear. The first step is giving him space, without guilt, pressure, or accusation. This doesn't mean tolerating poor communication or inconsistency, but rather allowing him to breathe without chasing him down for answers. When the time is right, open a conversation about what freedom means to him. Let him know that being in a relationship with you doesn't mean giving up who he is. A healthy partnership should enhance both people's lives, not confine them. If you can show that love and independence aren't mutually exclusive, he may begin to see the relationship in a new light. Reframing love as a choice, not a sacrifice. At its best, love isn't something that takes freedom away, it's something that respects it. The fear of losing personal freedom often comes from past experiences, assumptions, or cultural narratives, not the reality of the relationship itself. What he needs is reassurance that he can still be himself, still have space, and still grow as an individual, while also growing together with you. When he sees that freedom isn't being stolen, but shared, the fear often fades, and what's left is room for a deeper, more secure connection. If you are still watching the video, do not hesitate to comment continue. Leave your thoughts and questions below in the comment section. I look forward to hearing your opinions. And do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that Sophia has more motivation to create more good and meaningful videos. Let's continue together. Reason number 3. The emotional testing phase. Why men become distant. There's a moment in many relationships where everything seems to be going right. The connection is real, the affection is clear, and the relationship feels stable. But then, almost without warning, he changes. His warmth cools. He seems preoccupied, less engaged, and harder to reach. It feels like he's slipping away emotionally, even though nothing significant has happened. What's going on? One common and often misunderstood reason is this: he's emotionally testing himself. He's not falling out of love. He's checking in with his own heart. What is emotional testing? Emotional testing is the internal process of stepping back, not to leave, but to feel. It's when someone begins to evaluate their emotions, question the strength and direction of the relationship, and ask themselves, do I really feel what I think I feel? Is this what I want long term? Am I ready for where this is going? For many men, this phase happens in silence. Unlike women, who may be more likely to process emotions out loud or through conversations with friends, men often work through emotional questions internally. And that silence can feel like distance, coldness, or rejection to their partner. Why he might step back even if he loves you. Emotional testing doesn't mean he has doubts about you specifically. It's usually about himself. Love is not a passive emotion, it's something that requires presence, vulnerability, and courage. As things become more serious, he may begin to wonder, am I as emotionally invested as I think I should be? Am I in love, or am I in comfort? Do I love her deeply, or am I afraid of being alone? Will this relationship still feel right in a year? 5 years? These are not easy questions to face, and the weight of them can cause a man to withdraw temporarily while he sorts through what's real and what might be fear, infatuation, or uncertainty. The fear of being too far in. There's also a fear that if he continues moving forward without truly understanding his feelings, he might lead you on. Men who are emotionally responsible often step back because they care. They don't want to promise a future they aren't certain about. They don't want to say I love you just because it feels expected. They need to be sure. Ironically, this pause to reflect can come across as a betrayal of the intimacy you've built together. It can feel like he's creating emotional distance just when you're letting your guard down. But in truth, he's checking in with himself before taking a deeper leap. The role of timing and readiness. Sometimes emotional testing is about timing, not love. A man might deeply care for you, but if he's not in a place in his life where he feels stable, confident, or emotionally ready, his feelings become more complicated. He begins to weigh love against other priorities. Career goals, personal growth, family responsibilities. He may ask himself, can I give her what she deserves? If he feels the answer is no, or even not yet, he may pull away, even reluctantly. This doesn't mean the relationship is doomed. It simply means he's trying to align his emotions with his reality. He wants to feel sure before fully committing. That's not weakness, that's emotional accountability. What you can do during this phase. The most powerful thing you can offer him during this time is emotional space, not pressure. Resist the urge to demand clarity when he doesn't yet have it himself. Pushing for answers can backfire, causing him to retreat further. Instead, focus on maintaining your own emotional balance. Let him know you're there, but don't pause your life waiting for him to make up his mind. If the connection is real, he will feel the difference between a relationship that holds space for reflection and one that suffocates it. At the same time, be clear about your own boundaries. Emotional testing is normal, but emotional avoidance is not. If he continues to stay distant without communicating, you have every right to ask for transparency about where things stand. Emotional testing can lead to clarity, or closure. This phase doesn't always mean the end of a relationship. Often, it leads to deeper clarity. A man who allows himself to question his feelings often comes back with a clearer, more grounded sense of commitment. He chooses to stay, not out of habit or convenience, but because he knows the connection is real. But sometimes, emotional testing reveals incompatibilities that neither person could see while caught up in passion. In that case, it leads to closure, not as a failure, but as a sign of growth. Either way, emotional testing isn't something to fear. It's a sign that he's taking the relationship, and his emotions, seriously. And if both people are willing to face those questions with honesty and care, the relationship can emerge stronger on the other side. Reason number 4. Not knowing how to express emotions. Why men become distant. It's one of the most frustrating experiences in a relationship. You know he cares. You feel the bond, the history, the connection. Yet when you need emotional openness, his thoughts, his feelings, his vulnerability, he goes quiet. Detached. Almost unreachable. He's not angry. He's not cold. He's just not there in the way you want or need. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many women have experienced this kind of emotional distance in relationships. And one of the most common, yet least talked about reasons is simple: he doesn't know how to express what he feels. Emotional expression is learned, not instinctive. From a young age, many men are taught, directly or indirectly, that showing emotion is a sign of weakness. Boys don't cry. Man up. Be strong. These phrases may seem harmless, but over time, they create a powerful message: emotions are something to suppress, not share. As a result, many men grow into adulthood without the emotional vocabulary or the self-awareness to explain how they feel. They might experience love, fear, doubt, joy, sadness, but when it comes time to articulate those feelings, they freeze. Not because they don't care, but because they've never learned how to say it. Silence is a defense mechanism. When men pull away emotionally, it often isn't because they're trying to hurt you. In many cases, it's a protective response. They don't know what to say. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They're afraid of being misunderstood or judged. So instead of fumbling through their emotions, they choose silence. To a partner, this silence can feel cold, distant, even disrespectful. But for him, it may feel like the safest option. In his mind, saying nothing is better than saying something that reveals too much, or exposes a side of himself he hasn't fully figured out yet. Emotion and control. Men who struggle with emotional expression often crave control over situations, conversations, and especially themselves. Emotions, by nature, are unpredictable. They make us vulnerable. And vulnerability can feel like weakness to someone who has been conditioned to associate masculinity with strength and composure. He may worry that if he opens up, he'll lose control. That he won't be able to stop the flood of emotion once it starts. So rather than take the risk, he avoids the conversation altogether. He changes the subject. He distracts himself with work, hobbies, or silence. And you're left wondering if he even feels anything at all. He feels, even if he doesn't say it. Here's the truth, just because he doesn't express emotion the way you do doesn't mean he lacks emotion. He may show it differently, through small acts of service, protectiveness, or physical closeness. He may love you deeply but not know how to say I miss you or I need you when things get hard. Many men express affection through actions, not words. But when emotional depth is required, especially in conflict, change, or vulnerability, those unspoken gestures often fall short. That's when the emotional disconnect becomes most obvious. Building a bridge, not a wall. If you're in a relationship with someone who struggles to express emotion, the goal isn't to force him to speak on your terms. Instead, it's about creating a space where he feels safe enough to try. Emotional expression is a skill, and like any skill, it takes time, patience, and practice to develop. Start with curiosity, not criticism. Instead of asking, "Why won't you talk to me?" try, "What's going on inside for you right now?" Be willing to listen without immediately interpreting or reacting. The more you create an environment where his emotions are welcomed, not judged, the more likely he'll be to open up. At the same time, it's important to hold space for your emotional needs. A relationship requires mutual understanding and expression. If you're constantly giving patience without receiving emotional presence in return, it creates imbalance. Encourage growth, but don't excuse emotional unavailability that hurts you in the long run. The journey to emotional fluency. Many men want to connect. They want to be understood. But they may not know how to start. Emotional fluency isn't something learned overnight, it's a slow, sometimes uncomfortable journey. But with time, trust, and the right partner, even the most emotionally reserved man can learn to speak the language of feeling. If he truly cares, and if the relationship is built on mutual respect, he'll begin to realize that emotional distance doesn't protect the relationship. It slowly erodes it. And from that awareness, change becomes possible. Reason number 5. Fear of being hurt. He says he cares. He acts like he does. He makes you feel seen, wanted, and even loved. But just when things start to feel solid, just when you begin to trust the connection, he starts pulling away. He becomes distant, unavailable, or emotionally shut off. It feels confusing, frustrating, even painful. And sometimes, the root of that sudden shift isn't about you. It's about a wound he's still protecting. Many men pull back not because they don't feel anything, but because they feel too much. And deep down, they're afraid of what might happen if they let themselves go all in. The hidden weight of emotional scars. Everyone has a history. Some carry it more quietly than others. Maybe he's been in a relationship where he gave everything and ended up broken. Maybe someone he trusted betrayed him, Or maybe he's never felt safe expressing his emotions, because when he did, it backfired. Even if he doesn't talk about it, those experiences leave emotional scars. And those scars become silent rules: don't get too close. Don't rely on anyone. Don't let them in too far. These internal beliefs form a kind of emotional armor, meant to protect him, but often hurting the relationships he actually wants to build. Vulnerability feels risky. Falling in love requires vulnerability. It asks a person to open their heart to another human being with no guarantee of safety. For someone with a fear of being hurt, that kind of openness can feel like standing on the edge of a cliff with no parachute. To you, it might seem like a natural progression, sharing more, getting closer, dreaming about the future. But for him, that closeness could trigger alarm bells. It might remind him of how much he lost the last time he let someone in. And so, instead of moving forward, he steps back. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares more than he knows how to handle. Emotional withdrawal as self-defense. Fear of being hurt doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes, it looks like silence. Other times, it looks like coldness, sarcasm, avoidance, or even temporary detachment. These behaviors aren't always conscious. He may not realize why he's acting this way. He just knows he's uncomfortable, and his instinct is to protect himself by creating distance. He might stop replying as often. He might say he needs space or doesn't know what he wants. In some cases, he might even pick fights or sabotage the relationship without fully understanding why. It's not that he wants to lose you, it's that part of him believes he will eventually lose you, and he's bracing for the pain before it happens. When love feels dangerous. One of the cruelest ironies is that the deeper the love, the greater the fear of loss. When a man is genuinely falling for you, it can trigger a storm of emotion that feels uncontrollable. Instead of leaning in, he might start looking for the exit, not because he wants out, but because he's terrified of what will happen if he stays and it doesn't work. To him, emotional safety matters more than emotional depth. He might rather feel nothing than risk feeling devastated. So he builds walls, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. And in doing so, he may unintentionally push away the very person who was safe enough to love him. What you can do. If you sense that fear of being hurt is behind his distance, the most important thing you can offer is empathy, not pressure. Let him know you see him, not just his behavior. Speak to his heart, not his walls. You might say something like, "It feels like you're pulling away, and I don't want to assume why. I care about you, and I'm here if you want to talk, no pressure, no expectations." This kind of openness can create emotional safety, which is often the only thing strong enough to melt fear. At the same time, protect your own heart. Loving someone who's afraid to love can be exhausting. You deserve clarity, presence, and reciprocity. If fear continues to control his actions, and he isn't willing to face it, you may have to choose yourself, even if it hurts. Healing is possible. The fear of being hurt doesn't disappear overnight. It takes time, reflection, and often the right kind of relationship to challenge those old fears. If he's willing to do the work, on himself and with you, he can slowly learn that love isn't a threat. That not every connection ends in pain. And that letting someone in doesn't mean losing control, it means gaining something real. When love becomes a place of healing instead of harm, walls begin to come down. But that healing starts with honesty, first with oneself, then with the person who's willing to love through the fear. Reason number 6. The relationship is entering a new phase. In the beginning, love is exciting. There's passion, novelty, and an almost magnetic pull that keeps both partners connected. It's easy to get swept up in the thrill of discovery. You're learning each other, bonding over shared moments, and falling into a rhythm that feels fresh and full of promise. But at some point, every relationship shifts. It matures. It moves beyond the honeymoon stage into something deeper, more stable, and sometimes more vulnerable. For some men, this transition isn't just noticeable, it's unsettling. And in many cases, it's one of the key reasons they begin to pull away. When comfort feels like a threat. As a relationship evolves, the dynamic begins to change. The butterflies may settle. The constant excitement may be replaced with routine. Emotional intimacy deepens, and conversations start to move beyond light banter into more serious territory, future plans, family, career, and commitment. To many women, this shift feels natural, even welcome. But for some men, it triggers fear. Not necessarily fear of you, but fear of what the relationship now represents, responsibility, vulnerability, and the possibility of long-term consequences. For someone who is used to romantic relationships being casual or temporary, this shift can feel like unfamiliar territory. And when faced with something unfamiliar, the instinct may be to step back, not to end things, but to process what this new phase means. Love gets real. Early love is often filled with idealization. Each person sees the best in the other, filtering out flaws and differences. But as the relationship matures, the reality of who each person is begins to show. And that's not a bad thing, it's part of building something genuine. However, real love comes with real challenges, emotional exposure, difficult conversations, moments of doubt, and the responsibility of showing up for someone else, even when it's inconvenient. For a man who's not fully ready for that kind of depth, the transition can feel overwhelming. He might think, this is getting serious. Am I ready for this? Can I meet her expectations? What if I fail her? What if I disappoint her? These thoughts aren't always spoken out loud, but they can echo in his mind, leading to withdrawal or confusion. A crossroads moment. Transitions in a relationship often serve as emotional checkpoints. They force both partners to ask themselves, where is this going? Am I in this for the long haul? Do I want the same things as my partner? For some men, this phase marks a moment of reckoning. He may feel torn between the comfort of the present and the unknown of the future. He might be trying to reconcile his personal timeline with the natural evolution of the relationship. And instead of communicating his uncertainty, he may go quiet, hoping the space will give him clarity. Unfortunately, that silence often sends the wrong message. You may feel rejected, confused, or hurt. But what's really happening beneath the surface is often far more complex than a lack of love. It's about processing change, and the fear that often comes with it. What you can do. When you sense that a man is pulling away because the relationship is changing, the key is to create room for honest conversation. Ask questions not from a place of accusation, but from curiosity. You might say, I feel like something's shifting between us. Are you noticing that too? Or I sense some distance lately. Can we talk about what this phase of our relationship feels like for both of us? Give him space to think, but not an excuse to avoid. Emotional maturity means being able to talk about the hard stuff, not just enjoying the easy parts. If he's the right person for you, he'll value that opportunity to connect, even if it takes time. At the same time, check in with yourself. Are you growing in the same direction? Are your needs being met? Are you supported emotionally through this transition, or are you carrying the weight alone? Growth isn't always comfortable. A relationship entering a new phase is a sign of progress, not a problem. But growth isn't always comfortable. It requires both partners to show up with courage, honesty, and a willingness to evolve, individually and together. If he's pulling away during this time, it may simply mean he's adjusting. That's not a red flag, it's human. But the true test of the relationship is whether both of you can meet this new stage with open hearts, clear minds, and mutual respect. Because love that grows stronger over time doesn't happen by accident. It happens through awareness, communication, and the ability to move through each phase, together. Reason number 7. He's experiencing inner conflict or a clash of values. Sometimes, distance in a relationship doesn't come from a lack of love, it comes from a deep, quiet war within. He may not talk about it. He might not even fully understand it himself. But beneath the silence, the retreat, or the shift in energy, there can be a powerful emotional struggle taking place, inner conflict. When a man begins to feel torn between who he is, what he believes, and what the relationship represents, that emotional tension can manifest as distance. It's not always a conscious decision. Often, it's a reaction to the weight of unresolved questions, conflicting priorities, or a growing gap between his values and the path he's on. What is inner conflict? Inner conflict is that uncomfortable space where a person's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs don't align. It's the mental tug-of-war between desire and doubt, between what he wants and what he feels he should want. For example, he may want a committed relationship but fear losing his independence. He may love you deeply but carry guilt from a past that still haunts him. Or he may be loyal to cultural, spiritual, or family values that conflict with the direction your relationship is taking. These conflicts don't always surface in words. Instead, they simmer beneath the surface, showing up in indecision, withdrawal, or emotional detachment. He may seem distracted, restless, or emotionally inconsistent. One moment he's fully present, the next he's gone quiet. You can feel that something's shifted, but he won't explain. Because he may not know how. When values clash. In any serious relationship, values eventually rise to the surface. In the early stages, differences in values, religion, lifestyle, family expectations, career goals might not seem like a big deal. But as the relationship deepens, those differences can become harder to ignore. If he begins to feel that your life visions don't align, or that being with you would mean compromising parts of his identity, it can create a deep emotional rift. Not because he doesn't love you, but because he fears losing himself in the process of loving you. For men who are raised with strong expectations, whether from culture, religion, or family, this can be especially difficult. The pressure to do the right thing according to those standards can overpower the personal truth of what his heart wants. And that internal conflict can slowly erode his ability to stay emotionally engaged. Why he might not talk about it. Men often aren't taught how to sit with emotional complexity. Many are conditioned to seek clarity, to fix problems quickly, to avoid emotional discomfort. So when faced with something as murky as inner conflict, the default response may be withdrawal. He may fear that if he shares his doubts or confusion, it will hurt you. He may worry that talking through his conflict will make things worse. Or he may not have the emotional tools to articulate what's really going on. So instead of opening up, he pulls back, hoping that distance will give him answers, or at least delay the need to choose. From your side, this can feel like abandonment. It can seem like he's shutting you out just when you're ready to go deeper. But often, his silence isn't rejection. It's confusion. He's trying to figure out what parts of himself he's willing to compromise, and which ones he's not. What you can do. When you sense inner conflict in a partner, your first instinct might be to fix it or pull him closer. But that often backfires. What he needs most isn't pressure, it's space. Not the kind of space that pushes you apart, but the kind that invites self-exploration. Try saying, "It feels like something's weighing on you. I don't need all the answers right now, but I want you to know you're safe to talk to me when you're ready." That kind of support can go a long way in helping him open up, not just to you, but to himself. At the same time, be honest about your own values. What are you willing to compromise? What are your non-negotiables? Relationships require give and take, but they shouldn't ask either person to sacrifice the core of who they are. When love isn't enough. Sometimes, despite the love, the values don't align. The inner conflict isn't temporary, it's a signal. A red flag that continuing the relationship would require someone to live a lie. And in those cases, distance isn't a failure. It's an act of integrity. But other times, inner conflict is simply a part of the growth process. It's the storm before clarity. And if both people are willing to face it with honesty and maturity, it can lead to a stronger, more aligned connection on the other side. Because love isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's about growing, together and individually, through the difficult moments. Even the silent ones. Reason number 8. He doesn't know what he really wants. In every relationship, there's a natural progression of expectations. At first, it's simple, there's excitement, passion, and an overwhelming desire to connect. As the relationship deepens, however, expectations start to build, expectations for emotional availability, commitment, time, and love. It's easy to understand why expectations are part of any serious relationship. They show care, investment, and a desire for shared futures. But sometimes, these expectations can feel heavy, especially for men who are still figuring out how to meet them without feeling suffocated or inadequate. When a man starts pulling away in response to your growing expectations, it's not always because he doesn't care. Often, it's because he feels overwhelmed by the pressure to meet those expectations, whether they are about his emotional availability, his role in the relationship, or his ability to live up to what he believes you need from him. The weight of expectations. The idea of expectations in a relationship can be both comforting and challenging. On one hand, they create a sense of security. They define what each person wants and needs from the other. On the other hand, they can quickly become a burden if one partner feels as though they are falling short or if the expectations are unclear or unrealistic. For some men, especially those who tend to internalize their feelings, the thought of letting their partner down can create an emotional burden. He may want to make you happy and show you that he cares, but the weight of constant expectations can be difficult to handle, particularly if he's not entirely sure he can meet them. This pressure can lead to anxiety, frustration, and ultimately, withdrawal. Fear of not being enough. One of the reasons why men might withdraw when expectations grow is because they fear not being enough. For some men, there's an ingrained belief that they should be able to provide everything. Emotional support, financial stability, constant companionship, etc. These ideals are often tied to societal pressures or personal insecurities, making it difficult for them to show vulnerability or admit when they're struggling. If they sense that you have high expectations for the relationship, expectations that may even be unspoken, they might begin to distance themselves, thinking that by doing so, they're protecting you from disappointment. The fear of not being able to live up to what you want can be paralyzing, and rather than confronting this situation head-on, he might choose to retreat instead. The need for space. When expectations become overwhelming, the need for space is often a natural response. Space doesn't necessarily mean the end of the relationship, but rather a way for him to decompress and recalibrate. Men who feel that their partner expects more than they can give may retreat into their own thoughts, hoping to regain a sense of clarity. They might not know how to communicate their feelings without feeling inadequate or like they're failing to meet your needs. This need for space is not an indication that he doesn't care about you. It's simply his way of managing the pressure he feels. When expectations are too high, it can feel like every action is scrutinized, and the fear of making a mistake becomes amplified. How you can help. If you sense that your partner is pulling away because he feels overwhelmed by your expectations, the best approach is one of compassion and understanding. Rather than adding pressure, try to communicate openly about what you both need in the relationship. Ask him how he feels, and let him express where he might be struggling to meet your needs, without fear of judgment. You might start by saying, "I realize I may have put a lot of pressure on you lately, and I want to make sure I'm being realistic about what we can give each other." This opens up a conversation where both of you can talk about your expectations, and he can feel heard and supported without feeling like he's failing you. It's also important to manage your own expectations. Relationships are about balance, and understanding that no one can meet every need all the time is a healthy approach. While it's natural to want certain things from your partner, it's also essential to understand that both partners are human, with their own limits, vulnerabilities, and struggles. Finding a healthy balance. The key to moving forward when expectations have caused distance is finding a balance that works for both of you. This means letting go of the idea that one person has to fulfill every need or play every role in the relationship. It also means respecting each other's boundaries and allowing space when necessary. At the same time, it's important to check in with yourself. Are your expectations realistic? Are they rooted in love and understanding, or are they based on unspoken pressures or past experiences? Taking a step back to evaluate what you need from the relationship, and why, can help you communicate more effectively and avoid inadvertently putting too much pressure on your partner. When expectations create distance. When expectations go unaddressed, they can create emotional distance. What might have started as a desire for closeness can slowly turn into frustration and misunderstanding. If you've noticed your partner pulling away, ask yourself whether there are unspoken expectations that might be adding to the stress. By fostering an open, understanding conversation, you can help create a space where both of you feel free to express your desires and boundaries without fear of judgment. Ultimately, the healthiest relationships are the ones where both partners understand each other's needs and limitations. Expectations are natural, but they should be flexible, realistic, and based on mutual understanding. By creating a safe space where both people can openly communicate about what they need without fear of disappointing each other, you can build a deeper, more supportive connection that isn't weighed down by unrealistic pressures. Remember, love isn't about meeting every expectation, it's about finding ways to grow together, adapt to each other's needs, and understand that no one person can be everything to someone else. Conclusion. In every relationship, it's natural to go through phases of closeness and distance. However, when a man pulls away, it doesn't always signal the end of love or care. There are many underlying reasons behind this emotional shift, ranging from internal struggles like fear of being hurt or the pressure of unrealistic expectations, to external factors like changing life phases or conflicts of values. The key is understanding that these shifts are often reflections of deeper, unspoken concerns, rather than a lack of interest or affection. The most important step in navigating these challenges is communication. Instead of assuming or withdrawing in response to his distance, try approaching the situation with empathy, curiosity, and patience. Understand that emotional distance may be a defense mechanism, a sign of inner conflict, or simply a reaction to the complexities of a growing relationship. By fostering an environment where both partners feel safe to express their needs and vulnerabilities, relationships can evolve in a healthy and supportive way. Ultimately, love is not about constant perfection or avoiding all discomfort. It's about growth, adaptation, and the willingness to meet each other halfway. If you can create a space of mutual understanding and support, you can help bridge the gap and move forward together, stronger and more connected than before. Relationships, like people, are dynamic, and with patience and communication, the bond between two people can endure even the toughest emotional challenges. Thank you for watching today's video. I'm so excited to share my lessons about love and relationships with you. I hope you learned something new and can apply it to your life. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you for always accompanying and supporting me. Have a great day and don't forget to love yourself a lot.